Hey everybody, welcome back to Electric Cafe. Today's video is an album review on Gary Numan's 1986 album, Strange Charm. I did a album review last week, Warriors, and a viewer mentioned that, or they were curious what my opinion was on this album, and I hadn't heard this album actually, so I was excited that somebody gave me an album to review. That was my first Gary Numan reviewed album, and this is my second one. I'm certainly going to do all of his at some point. But since somebody actually mentioned it to review it, I wanted to break it out and review it. Well, I actually not break it out, but listen. I actually don't have this album actually. Um, so yeah, this is his eighth album overall, and the third on his own label after he left after doing Warriors. Um, 8 tracks on here. First track is My Breathing. I really like this track a lot. The atmospheric, it's haunting, it's powerful, it's verging on dark. I like the echo on the drums. I love the background vocals on it. It reminds me a little bit of Bel Cantu. I don't know if anybody out there has heard of Bel Cantu, but it reminds me of Bel Cantu a little bit. Um, I really like this track a lot. I gave it 3.5 stars. One of my top three favorites on here for sure. Really good stuff. Really happy to hear that right out of the first track on there. It's an excellent track. I listened to it a couple times in a row for sure. Unfortunately, it goes right into probably my one of my least favorites on the album, Unknown and Hostile. It's not a bad beat. I don't mind the background vocals or sax, but I don't love them either. It's just again, it's kind of like Warriors, where I was kind of like, I'm kind of torn in the middle of do I like it or don't like it. It's funny for me not to have an opinion on something like background vocals or sax. Usually, I have a really strong opinion whether they work or not. And with the Gary Numan, I can't figure it out whether I like it or I don't like it. I know I'm leaning towards I don't like it, but I can't really. I'm not like, oh, there's that sax again. Although over quite a few tracks, I was like, okay, well, that's a lot of sax. But I wasn't like like terribly distraught or. Normally, when I hear a sax in a song, I'm like really questioning does it work with the song? Because usually it does if you're going to include saxophone in a song, like I think of like Roxy Music or something like that. Like you know, I can really tell. It really works. But sometimes when a sax doesn't work in a song, you're just like, wow, it really stands out really bad. Um, like George Michael track has a saxophone. That works, right? I guess, but it's still kind of like super cheesy, even though it works. I think that's kind of like the reason why people don't use saxophone in tracks a lot, especially not in solos. Um, the guitar in Unknown and Hostile, it's kind of you know, not too much to like in the song. I have it as okay, 1.25 stars. Sleep Room, my favorite song on the album. I love this track. This is an awesome song. I really like this. It's a better beat. I like the chorus a lot. The keyboards are a bit more pronounced. Still a good musical bass. Like overall, nice and moody. I love what's going on in the bridge. When like about halfway through, and he starts singing again in that bridge, and it becomes a little bit more powerful, and then sort of continues on with where it was going. That part was really cool. I really like the song a lot. I listened to it for an hour in a row. I really like this track. 3.75 stars. I'm glad. That's why I want to keep listening to the. I haven't heard any of the albums from Gary Numan from the Fury from '85, and then this album. First time I heard this album, all the way through the '90s. I don't know any Gary Numan albums, so I'm excited to hear the analog side of the '80s and him sort of be conflicted with his direction of music, like what we're having here, and then sort of him finding himself. I feel I feel like Gary Numan is very inspired or very maybe distracted, maybe influenced a lot by other music. Like I can feel like he really listens to a lot of music going out there, and he's influenced enough to try to sort of I wouldn't say really mimic them because Gary Numan has his own style, but there's a lot of dance music on this album. You know, especially towards the end, like I Can't Stop and The Need and This Is Love. They all sound like almost like prototypical Chicago house tracks of 1985, 86. You know, early Detroit techno tracks like the rhythm. They almost kind of sound like, I wouldn't say like freestyle instrumentals with his singing over the top, but they're very danceable. And so maybe he was listening to some of the early acid house records and sort of incorporated that into his style. And I'm sure he did that when, you know, obviously he really likes Nine Inch Nails and Trent Reznor. And I know I've seen him, you know, talk about how Songs of Faith and Devotion by Depeche Mode really influenced him that year. So I feel like those two things, like the Trent Reznor and the Depeche Mode thing, kind of helped put him on track with the direction that he wanted through the 90s and then going forward. And then he kind of, now he's, now in the last 10, 15 years, now he's hip again. And I really took that a lot into like the lyrics of um, The Sleep Room, where, if I'm not mistaken, I didn't look at the lyrics, but he says something like I'm not even in fashion anymore. I think that's what I got from it, and that makes complete sense because he was looked at as, I mean, you kind of have that David Bowie, like, you know, the you know, the Ziggy Stardust, and then he was the white, um, you know, he throws those images. What's the white one? I can't think of what it is. The white Duke, right? So he has these like you know, iconic looks, right? Gary Numan comes in and he has like an iconic look in a way, right? So, and his sound is so futuristic when he comes out, and he's just like, you know, I mean, like one of the most popular singers in UK at the time, and I mean everything he touches turns to gold, and has Cars is the number one song, and then all of a sudden 3 4 years passes and he's not cool anymore, and then he's not even looked at as as sort of hip with how he dresses, right? And I think that's really kind of telling because Gary Newman's a very honest person, I feel like, um, and that makes complete sense because he doesn't know that, he even talks about he doesn't know the direction of his music and where he should take it after the fact, and then even in the lyrics. Um, you know, so I feel like he's understanding that he's confused about the direction of his music, and he can't understand. I mean, obviously, he probably, like anybody would, he probably loves the financial rewards of being a star or selling a lot of records, right? You know what I mean? Because he gets to do it again. He gets to continue what he wants to do. Like anybody would be happy with that. But then there was so much pressure in writing this album, and especially a lot of these albums around here, to have hits, that maybe he's trying a little too hard, trying different things, sort of trying to become hip with whatever's the latest, right? And that may or may not work. But then it's still Gary Numan, so you're kind of like, you're conflicted because it's, and that's the only thing I can say about his music, and that's why the saxophone and background vocals and stuff, they don't feel like they fully work because I feel like it's not fully his direction that he really wants to go, and that's where the conflict goes, and it to me it comes out in his music. Excuse me. And that's why I talked about earlier about really trying to be in tune with the artist that you're listening to, because you can tell whether they're fake or not. Like you listen to something like Sisters of Mercy, like you can tell like that guy Andrew Ulrich, like he excuse me, I feel that he feels is he is that way. Like Martin Gore, when he sings, I can feel that he is who he is. You know, like there's certain singers and certain bands, they feel genuine. And there's certain styles that are so exact. Like you can't fake being an industrial band and have somebody who likes industrial band like your music. Like you really have to. I wouldn't say like live it and breathe it and stuff like that, but you you can't just come out and be a goth rock band and be like, oh, I'm going to be a goth rock band, and like you kind of have to have lived it and know the history of it, understand the music of it, understand what makes the, you know what I mean? Like you really have to be involved in it and really know it on a deeper level for you to do that art and have somebody who really likes that style of art really like your art, right? So that's where I feel like the these Gary Numan albums in the middle here so far, from what I listened to with Warriors and Strange Charm, and I'm interested to listen to Fury as well. How these are sort of conflicted on the direction of what Gary Numan wants to take it, and it makes sense. But man, I love the Sleep Room. It's such a great track. I got 3 and 3/4 stars. Did I already mention that? Yeah, 3 and 3/4 stars. Awesome track. Really close to excellent. Really close. Really close. But let's do about an hour. So whoever recommended this album for me to listen to, thanks, because I found a couple favorite new new to me favorite Gary Numan tracks, and one of them is Sleep Room, and one of them is My Breathing. Track 4, New Thing from London Town. Am I wrong? I'll ask anybody who's heard this album and knows this album well, because this is my first time hearing it. Is he trying to mimic Pet Shop Boys in this song? um, the beat is okay. The lead synth is bold for sure. I had Pet Shop Boys question mark. One thing I like about Gary Numan is when he does minor key changes and less major chord changes. Like in this one, he kind of does major chord changes, and I don't know if it works. The chorus isn't bad. I have 2 stars. But curious, does this sound like a Pet Shop Boys song to anybody else? I feel like there's a little bit of that in that. And again, that's what I was saying about Gary Numan. He seems influenced by music that's going around him, and he's not ashamed or to sort of put it into his own music and try it for the good and the bad. Some people might think that is like, oh, he's trying to do this. Like, I mean, maybe people did that at the time. I don't know, but I I think there's good and bad about doing it. But I mean, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I do feel a little bit like the beat in here. Even I wouldn't say the lead synth is Pet Shop Boys here, but you think of like how Pet Shop Boys program their rhythms and stuff like that, how Chris Lowe programs it. I feel like Gary Numan was kind of doing that with New Thing from London Town. But yeah, 2 stars. It's a good track. It kind of grows on you a little bit. I can't stop. Also mentioning grows on you. I can't stop. Track number 5. It's not a bad rhythm. Backing vocal and the guitar is kind of subpar. The guitar solo is pretty good though when it does come out. The music sinks in by the second half, and sort of, I get it. The vocals are a little bit much. I can overlook the monotonous of the track because I like dance music, and dance music can be pretty monotonous. I can see other people like being kind of annoyed with the song, especially on how long it is, and then how many times it says the girl in the background says "I can't stop," which is strange because it was also a coincidence. I was like looking to see who did the background vocals, and it was Tessa Niles was one of them, and she was on a few Pet Shop Boys songs, which I knew the name right when I saw it. I was like, oh, that's Tessa Niles. She was on. She did the background vocals for. It's all right, right? Off Introspective. But yeah, what was I talking about? I can overlook the monotonous, but the girl says I can't stop probably like 40 times on the song. Like to some people, I can see that being kind of annoying. to me, I'm kind of like I'm kind of used to it because it's dance music. Monotony is part of dance music, and I'm okay with that. In fact, I embrace monotony. Title track number 6. Not bad. Perhaps a little too dancey. It's strange because I want to not like it, but I do. There's a lot of that in the song. There's a lot of that in this album. On certain songs that I'm okay, that I think are sort of good. I kind of want to be like, I kind of want to knock them because they're kind of like, there is a little bit of dated sound on here with the dance stuff. And there's like, like certain things that I like, like a fake horn or some kind of just like sound where it's just, it's kind of like fairly loud. It's not like subtle and it's not really loud in the mix, but it's just something that's like there's a lot of like sounds in some of these songs that are kind of like obviously dated, but they're just like out there. And then I don't know if they're really like, it would have been better if there was less of that or even none of that and just sort of focused on the rhythm and the music and the musical parts than the really like the dramatic sounds here and there. And just, I don't know. It's the way he sings on Strange Charm is kind of cool. I have to admit. Again, it does sound like he's sort of rapping, and then I was thinking of Pet Shop Boys on this one too. But it doesn't sound like Pet Shop Boys, but just that part of him sort of rapping, kind of like West End Girls. I don't know if he was doing that because but it's kind of cool. The lyrics are certainly pretty cheesy. The keyboards are cool underneath. I like the atmosphere. Again, there's definitely some cheesy dance sounds in the background, the horns, etc. I don't know where they come from. I don't know why they're there. It's just like, oh, we're gonna put some '80s horn dance, just like, to sort of emphasize things, and it's just like that probably wasn't needed. Um, Again, it's a track that I don't necessarily want to like, but I do ended up liking it. It's good. 2.5 stars. It's a good track. Ooh, and then the worst track on the album, The Need. Too many vocals. I don't know why I put that. Too many vocals now. Oh, 3 in a row. 3 in a row where it's just dance songs that have too many vocals, I think. I don't know why I wrote too many vocals. I don't know exactly what that means, but 3 in a row where I think I was talking about the background vocals as well. I think, there's a lot of she sings a lot on this album. And I put the horns, no. Just, the horns are not good. The chorus is a little rough too. And it's a long song too. I give it a 0.5 star. Couldn't even say it was an okay track. Then the last track is one of my favorites. This Is Love. I said finally, it's strange to add this on to the end. This one's kind of a sort of I wouldn't say it's a ballad, but it's sort of a darker song. The piano and the atmosphere is great. The sax solo is actually good, but it's still taking away from the mood for me for a little bit. Wouldn't say it's ruining the song or it doesn't fit. It just it just takes away from the mood for me. I wish it would have gone on a little longer and perhaps a different choice with the saxophone again. But I really do like the track. It's my third favorite on the album. 3.25 stars. So yeah, looking at the overall, overall good. A few good tracks and definitely some potential here and there for sure. I really like my breathing again. Almost goes into like a sort of dark wave or even a celestial shoegaze, but more electronic, not really shoegaze. But I find that really interesting. There's some layers in that sound with the background vocals and the singer and my breathing. And the sound, the keyboard sounds, it almost kind of sounds like an early dark wave song. Like it's kind of verging on it could be a dark wave song. And I find that really cool because if I play any dark wave sets, DJing coming up, I'm gonna play that track because it's cool. Sleep Room is really good too. I love that song. And then again, I really like This Is Love. Some good other songs are close to being very good. I Can't Stop and Strange Charm are close to being very good. And then the opportunities for the album, a few rough songs. Lots of borderline cheesy sounds in almost every song. You know, the direction of the album is odd again, like Warriors. Maybe even more so because it's trying to be dancey. Three dancey songs in a row. It was a little trying to get through those three, even if I liked two of them, it was a little tough to get through three dated dance songs that were 6 minutes each. um, I wrote a couple question marks on this one to kind of poll to people who know this album better than me or have heard this album and kind of get your feedback. Pressure to make a dance hit. He's kind of known as the electronic guy, right? Dance music's becoming more popular in the mid 80s. Is he trying to make a dance hit in this album? Another question mark. Maybe he doesn't know his audience. Or maybe he doesn't even know if he has an audience. I put a question mark. And that's kind of what I was earlier saying out with the sleep room. Like, I think he realizing does he even have an audience? You know? You know? Um, the production volumes are kind of low when other instruments are going on. I'm not sure what it is, but there's a couple times in the album where the volume gets extremely louder and then it falls back with the rhythm out that and then it's kind of like another volume. I don't know if they did some bad edits in there and sort of like had the rhythm and then but you can really tell like it's all the volume of the songs like here. The Sleep Room is a good example. I think that's one of the tracks I'm mentioning. There's kind of like a level like this. And then there's that really cool bridge, right, where it sort of adds like a lot of keyboards and he sort of does a different vocal in there. And if you saw the overall volume graph of that, it would probably be pretty straight. And then that part would be up and then the regular track would be like that. It's just, there's a couple other parts where there's, in the album where there's a few instruments kind of die down and then the whole album feels kind of low, and then it kind of gets where you're like, oh, it's a little loud right now. So I don't know what that is. It's just I ran through a couple when I if I don't have the album or the CD and I play it to hear it, I try to get the original tracks. I don't to get as close to the original as possible. I don't look for remastered ones or you know FLAC or something like that. I try to go with MP3 or better yet, of course, the original vinyl or CD, or hopefully somebody downloaded, the original and you can see like it's like 12-year-old upload. So I try to pick the oldest, most closest to hopefully the original copy as I can get, so I can kind of gauge the fidelity and the volume and stuff like that. So I felt like I did grab an older one and I did kind of notice that on a few songs. So just a small interesting thing that I was listening to when I noticed that. Is 8 songs a little short for an album? Most of the songs are over 5 minutes though, so I have to say no. So adding up the stars, I got 19 and a quarter stars divided by 8 tracks. It's a 2.40. So that averages out to be about what is that? About a 58. So I carried that over. Don't feel like I can add anything to it or really take anything away over the overall based on the songs. I feel pretty confident in understanding this album, and I rated it a 59 out of 100. So it's real close to being a good album. I got it. 60 would be a good album for me. 59 is an okay album, but again, it's on the highest side of that. So I can easily put it at 60 and it'd be a good album. But it's right around there. I feel pretty confident in that, and I feel okay with that because it is. I do like this album more than Warriors. I think I gave Warriors a 48, right? So I definitely like this album a lot better than Warriors as a whole. I do like dance music and electronic music more, but the dance music in here didn't sway me at all. In fact, I felt like that made it even more awkward than the other one was sort of like a I don't know, it wasn't really jazz or just rock, but it was sort of like, I don't know. This one's more a direction towards dance music, I guess. I could say that, but the dance music in here is kind of dated. There are some good beats and some good rhythms, but like I can't stop. That beat's pretty cool. The rhythm's pretty cool, but you know what I mean. Like I'm a dance fan, and that wasn't what was persuading me. It was there was to for it to score better than Warriors. It was because there's more good songs on here. Like I have I have 6 of the 8 songs good or very good. Only 2 below. So when I think of Warriors, I probably had it was probably 3 or 4 that were okay, and maybe well there's 10 songs on that album, but it's probably a different mix, more so towards ones that were not more so, but it was probably a little bit more balanced between good ones and bad ones. So especially if this album has 2 less songs too, and I liked more songs on here, so I feel pretty confident in that. It's 59 out of 100, but it's a good album. Thanks for whoever recommended it. Me listening to it, I enjoyed it, and I found some new favorite Gary Numan tracks, and I really like the direction he's going, even though it's a little odd. So I'm excited to kind of hear Fury before this, and then also hear the ones after this, and eventually get towards his revival and being appreciated again. We appreciate you, Gary Numan. All right, thanks so much for watching.